I'm Ryan Milliken from Hardway Performance, and you're listening to the Diesel Podcast.
I'm Dimitri Miller with No Zone Diesel.
This is Anthony Reams from XDP.
This is Jaron Holder from Holderdown Performance.
Corey Willis from PPEI.
I'm Drew with D&J Precision Machine.
I'm Pinky.
And you're listening to the Diesel Podcast.
Diesel Podcast.
You're listening to the Diesel Podcast.
The Diesel Podcast.
The one and only Diesel Podcast.
What is going on, Diesel Nation? Today's episode comes directly from you guys. We had a listener message us. He's a 7.3 liter Powerstroke fan. He wanted to hear from one of the experts out there to talk about performance, different build options, how much power they can make, and things that they can do, that they just got the truck, small upgrades they can make till they're ready to, say make a certain power number. So before we get to that though, we want to thank you guys for all the feedback we've gotten on iTunes. We check every day. I want to thank you guys for the 5-star ratings and the suggestions for shows and guests. So keep blowing us up. We're going to keep checking them and bringing you guys the content you want to hear from. We also want to give a special shout out to BD Diesel and PPEI. Those guys help make episodes like this possible. Make sure and go to ppei.com and dieselperformance.com if you're looking for custom tuning or hard parts, torque converters, turbos, tons of different things. Brian, I'm excited to chat with you today about 7.3 liter Powerstroke performance. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty well. How are you doing?
Man, excellent. Excellent. I remember your truck from way back when. I wanted to start at the beginning with that maroon truck, that maroon 7.3 that you had, and have you take us through when you got that truck, how the modifications progressed, and all you've done with it.
Okay. So I bought that truck back in 2004. I was in college. I actually saw it on the side of the road, and I went and looked at it. It looked brand new. It was like 4 years old, and I just had to have it. It was my first diesel, and I just really wanted it, so I got it.
With the 7.3, was it like an engine or a truck that you always liked and gravitated towards it, or was it just kind of a spontaneous purchase?
It was kind of, I've always been a Ford guy, and a couple of my friends had 7.3s and stuff, and it just kind of got my attention and stuff. So
sweet. And then I'm sure it probably started with a chip or a tuner and intake and exhaust, and went from there.
I actually lifted the truck a couple months later. I lifted it about 10 inches and put 39 Mickey Thompson tires on it. I don't know if you remember the 39-18 Mickey Thompson Baja Deltas, but they don't make them anymore. But it was sitting up there.
Now, after you did the lift and say intake, exhaust, and tune, how did the modifications progress to where you took it?
Well, I had it lifted probably for about 6 months, and I lowered it back down. I was tired of it. I was driving 100 miles a day, and I was just tired of it, and I wanted to do some more stuff to it, to make it go faster, of course, because I had some of my buddies, my 6-liter buddies, were going to the track and stuff. So, I wanted to lower it down and make it faster, and I think I did like a super chip, I think it was a super chip and a Bank 6-gun tuner on it. And I thought it was the best thing, man, for real.
It's amazing what just a little tuning will do to, any diesel. But it wakes them up.
Yeah. Yep. But as far as, the major modifications, that came in about 2007, 2006, 2007-ish. I was on the diesel stop. I had come across that forum. And I started reading on there a lot, and David Lott was on there, and Danny Elmore, and I saw their trucks, and it really got my attention. Like Danny was running, I think he was running like low 8s and 8th mile, and I thought that was really cool. And a lot of the local 6-liter guys were hitting up the 8th mile. They were going 890s, 880s, and I was like, dang man, maybe I can really make my 7.3. Run pretty good, outrun them, and maybe get this thing into 7s. So it was kind of an eye-opener.
What'd you start with? Was it the fuel side? Was it turbo?
I started on the fuel side. I put a set of stage stage 2 injectors in it. It had a stock turbo for a while, but it ran like low nines with those injectors in it. And then I slowly, started doing more and more stuff to it. Sent the injectors off, got them redone, got them done to 230 cc A codes, and then I put a Gen 3 oil pump on it. And this was back in probably 2008 when I did this. And it ran, so with the 238 cc A codes, the Gen 3 oil pump, and I had a 38R on it. It went an 8.1 in the 8th mile, and that was on fuel only. So it ran pretty good with that setup.
How did you like the 38R? I know a lot of 7.3 guys ask about it, and it's a popular, drop-in turbo replacement.
It's a pretty good turbo. There's a lot of different options out there nowadays, but back then there was only just a few things out there, as far as drop-in. Your Dominator 66 was pretty common, but that was more like for an early 99 truck or OBS. The 38R was actually the only drop-in charger that I could remember, back then. And then, of course, the Hypermax setup, the T4i flange turbos setup. But as far as the 38R, it did okay. It made about 450 horsepower with my setup, and then I sprayed it, and I actually blew it up. I blew it up at the track. I think I put like an 80 jet in it, 80 thousandths jet in it, and ended up breaking the shaft and the turbo. And that was an interesting ride home from the track. It was. I probably should have got it towed, but I was like, screw it,
Did the stock training hold up to taking it to the 8 mile truck?
Actually, as soon as I put the 238 codes in it, the Gen 3, it actually popped the transmission on the first stab of the throttle. So, and when I was daily driving it, from 2004 to 2007, I was driving a lot. I put a lot of miles on that truck. I had put over 100,000 miles on it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So at this time, this truck was well over 200,000 miles. The trans was pretty tired. I had a shift kit in and stuff for a while, but it was just too much power for it.
So around, say, 2007, 2008, not much longer after that, when I first saw your truck was in Diesel Power Challenge. And I remember vividly, like, buying the magazine and seeing a whole bunch of different kind of trucks, and it's what hooked me, was seeing the Fords and the GMs and the Dodge trucks and everything. How did you prepare or get ready at that time when you entered it and participated in it to bring the best 7.3 to it that you could?
Yeah, so the year before the DPC, I had stepped up to my bigger setup, 355cc injectors, and had an S475, which I had a funky turbine house, and it was a T4i, because the only thing back then was a Hypermax setup, so we kind of stuck to that. So, I mean, the truck made 680 horse on fuel with that setup, with a stock bottom end, but shortly, right before DPC, I had put a built motor in that truck, Buddy Van Atkins motor. I've actually bought that from him, and I stuck that in there, and Swamps really helped me out back then. They supplied me with a set of 400s, and I believe I put a bigger charger on it too. I had a S480 on it with a 96 turbine wheel, because I was having some issues with keeping a charger in the truck, in the live with nitros. And then also we had dual wastegates that were basically discharged to the atmosphere. So that was probably something that was not very common back there, or back then. You didn't really see too many diesel guys that were, and especially in the V8, Duramax or Powerstroke, that were venting to atmosphere, the wastegates and stuff like that. So pretty cool, and it was, it got a lot of people's attentions when they opened up. It sounded pretty wicked. It still does, but
that's what I remember about it. It was a very unique setup, and and it was just so cool back then to see. It was, I think Diesel Performance at that time was sort of in its infancy compared to how it is now, and it was so competitive. And I always remembered that truck and your name, and I connected 7.3 liter performance to you because of that event. Now, when you say we fast forward a little bit, to now, is what are you doing with the truck? What are your goals with it? Have you changed the setup drastically since then?
Yeah, so let's see. I put a new motor in it in 12 because the EGTs, I didn't care about EGTs, and I didn't have a gauge in the truck. I just didn't care, and it pretty much caught up to me. I cracked 7 out of the 8 cylinder walls. I was putting a lot of heat through that motor with nitrous and stuff. But so I put a new motor in it in 12. Then in 14, actually in 15, I ended up putting some heads, some Crutchfield heads that flow twice as much as stock. A new cam, and I put a different charger on it, and it made over 200 horsepower more on fuel with that setup.
That's a big jump.
Yeah, it made a big difference. And then, tuning changes and stuff like that, that all helped out too. Yeah, it's changed quite a bit since then. Now I'm running the forced induction turbo, which made a huge difference too. It makes good power. A couple years ago, I did 808 on Beans. Beans Diesel out in Tennessee. I made 808 on fuel on that, and then sprayed it to 1,082. But I wasn't really like going all out for a nitrous run or anything. I just kind of had the jets in there that I run at the track, and then 1,082. So.
And that motor that you did in 2012, that's the same one that's in it today, right?
Yeah, same engine that's in it today.
So it's taking a beating.
Yeah, and the heads and the can and all that stuff, that helped out a lot with the EGTs. It really did. And I still got a pretty gnarly water injection setup too on the truck. It runs about 1,600 degrees with nitrous. Before it would, peg 2,000 degrees. So it's a pretty gnarly water injection setup. It's over 1,000 psi pressure.
As far as the transmission, I'm sure you had to upgrade that and dial that in for 800 on fuel, 1,000 on spray.
Yeah, so Ray Brown over at Twisted Diesel, they've always helped me out with the transmission side. It's a full built transmission through them. It's their competition series, so it's got all the billet internals and all the the valve body mods and all that. So he does really good with that stuff, man. He's same transmission that Charlie Keeter runs and Taylor Overcash. So those guys are making way more power than me, and they've had good luck with them too. So my transmission's been in my truck for 3 years, no issues. So going pretty good.
And before we had chatted a little bit about the turbo setup in single and compounds, and I wanted to ask you, what was it like running compounds on a 7.3?
It sounded wicked. It sounded awesome. Just like anything else you compound, the engine exhaust, the note out of the exhaust is actually really quiet. And all you hear is, the whistle. But I had a huge set of compounds on the truck. I had a S475 and a 106 Precision. And, it changed the way it spooled big time. Like, with a single charger, S475, I could leave, stage a truck, and, build up about 20 pounds of boost, let off the brake, and, it would come up super fast. But the compounds, you had to leave at 40 pounds of boost. I mean, it made it super laggy, and it was a big set of compounds. I know that, but, I had to leave at 40 pounds of boost just to get a good launch out of the truck. And it would peg the 100-pound gauge pretty easily. But just not a real big fan of the compounds on the 7.3. I didn't see too much of difference, in power over a single turbo. I think I saw maybe like 50 horsepower, and I just kept going through high-pressure turbos as well. So I just kind of scrapped that and went back to my single charger and, wastegated with nitrous. It, just simple, and it works.
Definitely, when you're out there on the track and traveling and going different places, the less downtime you have or surprises or, trying to overnight turbos and things like that, the better it is. So
yeah, exactly. And it's just a lot easier to work on, too, with a single charger. But, yeah, I've had really good luck with my single turbos and nitrous and stuff. So, and then with the couple years back, last year, I got some newer injectors too, that flow a little bit better than the ones I had before from Swamps. Swamps helped me out with that as well. They really flow the fuel. They empty fast, and I won't go into any details as far as what they flow, but they flow a crap load of fuel in short duration.
So what are what's the next step for the truck? Is there a power number you want to hit? Is there a time you're going for?
So the truck right now is at my buddy's shop. He's doing a 25.6 SFI chromoly cage and basically taking off 1,300 pounds. Right now there's nothing pretty much left to cab. He skinned the cab, moved the motor back about 6 inches, doing a whole different turbo setup, still single charger, of course. Aluminum floors, firewall, all that stuff. But yeah, I'm getting ready to do the 590 index in the Outlaw Diesel Super Series. Getting it ready. I was hoping to have it ready earlier this year, but it looks like it's going to be probably in the fall when it's going to be done.
That's going to be a sweet setup and really exciting to see it out there.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it too. Last fall, we took off about 500 pounds off the truck last fall, and we got it down to a 619 at 113 miles per hour, with not a whole lot of nitrous to it. That's moving an eighth mile. That comes out to, about a 960 in a quarter. So we got it down pretty good last fall. We did some 4-link work too to the front. Took out the leaf springs, got the 60 foots down into the 1.4s, 144, 145 area. But we're looking probably, on the same type of nitrous setup, tune-up that we had last fall. With this new weight, we're going to be at, I'm thinking 650s, 660s. 560s, 570, something like that. An eighth mile at probably about 125 miles per hour. But for the 590 index, we'll cut it back a little bit.
I can't wait to see it out there running, especially with the 7.3, because a lot of people are gravitating towards them. And I'd say the older trucks in general, I think for the simplicity of them and what you can do with them, and to see, we've talked with the 6.7 Powerstroke guys, 6.4, 6.0s, and the 7.3s, it's cool to see how they've progressed with performance from where they were. I think all of Diesel Performance has over the last 3 or 4 years, but what guys like yourself are doing with them show how quick they can go, how much power you can make with them, that it's a platform that you can get into and then grow with, whether you want just a little extra power or you want to do what you're doing.
Yeah. I got a lot of customers, that just want, a 600 horsepower truck and go out and run, 12s. Sometimes even 11s, in the quarter mile. And, it's a fun setup on the street. I got really hooked on it when I was, 10 years ago. I got really hooked into it, and I didn't really think I was going to be putting a roll bar in my truck, but it just kind of happens. Then when the track guys tell you don't come back until you get a cage, You're like, oh, okay. I guess I need to get a roll bar.
You'd mentioned customers. What are you doing in the diesel performance world?
So Jelly Performance LLC is my company. We do custom tuning for 7.3s, and we also sell performance parts. So, I do a lot of custom tuning. I stay really busy with that. I have, different companies that I deal with on a daily basis. Real good with the guys over at Power Hungry Performance. I'm one of their preferred dealers. So, and that's actually the company that I use as far as the custom tuning stuff goes. The software, they made the software. So, great group of guys over there.
That just opens up a whole set of questions for you, because I had actually a handful of guys recently have said, I want to hear about 7.3 liter Powerstroke performance, and they gave me a list of questions. And I wanted to ask you, say somebody goes out, they buy 01, 02, 7.3. As far as tuning, what has taken place with the 7.3 that's changed it from the early days?
Back a long time ago, the only thing that was really out there was, as far as custom tuning goes, was the ATS Performance chip. And the last 3 or 4 years, Power Hungry has released a new chip. It's a Hydra chip, and it's a really cool chip. And basically, the customer can buy this chip from anybody. He can take it, put it in his truck, and then say if he wants to get custom tunes later for it, he just calls up a custom tuner and, say, I want some custom tunes. And basically, I send, whoever the tuner is, will send the files to them, and they can upload it onto the chip themselves with a USB cable. So there's no chip burner or anything like that, like the old days. Back then it was a little different, the chip burner, it kind of sucked. It was slow, and it was expensive, so not many people wanted one. So with the Hydra, it's just all built in, with the Power Hungry system, with the Hydra Flash and stuff like that.
It's really cool. They can just be updated over the internet with a USB cable, and if you want to make changes or you do different injectors or something like that, it sounds super easy to just update the tunes.
Yeah, it is. It's really easy. So the customer will open up their laptop or their regular desktop, and they'll download Hydra Flash, and they can go to hydrahelp.com and get that. And then basically you just plug your chip in to the computer with the USB cable, and open up the files, the tunes that you want to load on the chip, and push the download button. It's pretty cool.
There's also live tuning, right? That's available?
Yep. So another thing that came out about 3 or 4 years ago was it's called the Quarter Horse, and that's also a Minotaur product, Power Hungry Performance product, and I use that with the Minotaur software, the tuning software that I use. And I can actually tune a truck while it's running in real time, and that saves a lot of time. Back in the days when I first started tuning, you would make a change to the tune, you would burn it to the chip, then you would take it for a spin. And it would be very time consuming, and it was very frustrating too. Being able to live tune the truck in real time has been very helpful, and I think it's pushed, tuning to a whole new level on the 7.3 side. So it's pretty awesome.
I bet it makes it a lot quicker as well once, say, you're tuning a truck that has different turbo injectors, a bunch of upgrades to it, where you can just speed up that process so much to really dial it in for that truck, what it's doing, what elevation it might be at, all those things that factor into the custom tuning side.
Yeah, it definitely speeds up the process, for sure. And there's so many different setups too on the 7.3s. There's like 4 or 5 different high pressure oil systems out on the market now. 10 different injector companies, and everybody does everything differently, So, the live tuning is definitely the way to go. Live tuning will beat any type of email tune. I can guarantee you that. It just makes it so much easier.
The other question that our listener had was, how much power can he get out of his 7.3 with just intake, exhaust, and say like live tuning or custom tuning?
Yeah, so you're pretty limited. Say if you have a 99.5 to 01, you're only going to make around 3,000 horsepower to the tire. I mean, you're just really limited on the fuel side, and the high pressure oil system kind of stinks too, with the factory injectors, the AD style injectors. It's just a very oil hungry injector. So trying to maintain good high pressure oil is going to be hard. So, somewhere 300 to 330 is going to be your area as far as power with a 99.5 to 01. And the OBSs are going to be quite less because they came with 90 cc injectors. So, which, the Super Duty injectors they're 140 cc. So.
What if, say, this guy, I just thought of this right now, there's always a power number that us diesel guys have where we say, I want my daily driver to be at 450 or 500 or 515. How or what ways would you suggest to take, let's say, a Super Duty and get it to the 450, 500 horsepower range, still keep, the reliability there, but what upgrades would we need to do to that truck to make it reach that power level?
So when you get up to that 450 horsepower range, you're going to have to upgrade. You're going to have to upgrade, your turbo. You can do like a KC 38R, or you can do it just a regular 38R, or you can upgrade to your iRate T4 kit, which is out now, which is great, and you can run, a 300 series 4-Warner turbo. The fuel injectors are going to be a must for sure. You could do there's 2 ways you could do it. You could do a hybrid injector, which use less oil than, say, an AA code injector. So you could do a hybrid injector. You do like a 238 cc injector with a 80% nozzle or 100% nozzle, and then one of those turbos there that should put you at the around the 500 horsepower mark. Now you could go to a smaller injector like an AA code, like a 180 or a 200 cc injector with around an 80% nozzle, but you're going to have to upgrade your high pressure oil pump. You're going to have to put like an adrenaline pump on it or a dual full force pump, just so you can maintain that good high pressure oil, because that is very important. And also when you go to, that horsepower range there, it's very wise to do like head studs and valve springs and push rods. And I never recommend anybody pulling the heads off those engines to do head studs. Do one stud at a time. So, because once you break those gaskets loose, because they've been sealed for probably 100 or 200,000 miles, once you pull them heads off and go back with factory gaskets, it's gonna be hard to seal those.
At what point do you got to start worrying about the bottom end? Is it a little past 500 or?
So it all depends what year you have. So your OBS trucks, your old body style trucks, they have forged rods. Then your early 99 to 2000s are going to have forged rods. Late 2000 is when they went to a PMR rod. It's a powdered metal rod. And those trucks there, those rods they'll window pretty easily.
Which is never good.
Yeah, your forged rod motors they'll hold up to about, I'd say the safe range is under 600 horsepower. Your PMR rods, I'm going to say, safe area is below 500. things can happen, I mean, there's trucks out there, PMR trucks with just chips that rob the motors, that just the rods let go. It's just how it is. I mean, there's a chance. This is how it is with horsepower. You just never know. But you could make power with forged rods, over 600, and it'll live a long time. I mean, I tell my customers, it could last a long time. It could not. You just never know. You could make 700 horsepower, with good tuning, and it lasts a long, long time. And also, if you wanted to do that, I'd recommend running a kind of a large single, so it kind of keeps the power, keeps the torque numbers low, and keeps that power band kind of up and out of the low RPM range. And tuning does have a good part in that too. Injection timing and trying to put the fuel kind of up and late in the RPM range. So tuning is a big part, because long time ago, 10 years ago, there was guys out there blowing forged rod motors up at 450 horsepower because they were running crazy load of timing, just crappy tuning, So, I mean, you can do it. As far as making power, your 700 horsepower trucks, your 600 horsepower trucks with forged rods. Let's say if something blows, say they robbed the motor or something, and they want to go back and build the motor with forged rods again or something. I don't ever recommend that, anyways. If somebody calls me and says they're building a motor with forged rods, I always tell them, do not build a motor with forged rods. That is a complete waste of time. You're throwing your money away, because you never know what will happen. If you're going to build a motor, you need to put billet rods in it. And you need to do a stud main girdle. And, I mean, that's just a minimum,
That's what I was going to ask next is, if we got a guy out there, it's like, okay, that, I want to go all in. What kind of power potential, or what's the highest powered 7.3 Powerstroke out there that you've seen or been a part of in tuning or with your expertise with the platform?
So TJ Salocos, he's up in Jersey. He was at the 7.3 Jamboree in Tennessee back in March. Pretty cool event, by the way. I didn't get to make it out there this year, but I went last year. TJ dynoed a 1,300 rear wheel horsepower out of his Huey 7.3. He runs a pretty similar setup that I have in mind. It was ghetto fog, but it still made 1,300 horsepower. And I helped out on that truck. I got him the turbo and helped him out on the tuning and stuff like that. But the truck's pretty impressive, 1,300 horsepower. So for a while there, we were kind of capped out at like 1,100 horsepower, but there's been some companies that, like Swamps and Unlimited and Full Force, that have figured things out, getting the fuel into the motor and stuff like that, which has helped a lot. 200 horsepower there
Yeah.
in the old days. So
I mean, 1,300 that's no joke. I mean, that's a pretty intense ride. No matter what kind of diesel it is, that's moving.
Yeah. And there's some other trucks out there that are pretty impressive too. Brian Gray down in Florida, he's got a two-wheel drive. I believe it's a 150 truck, but it doesn't have factory frame or anything. It's a pro mod. But this year he's gone, I believe he's gone 520s in the 8th at 3,600 pounds. And, the calculations come out to, 1,250, 1,300 horsepower. That's pretty respectable. So, it's pretty cool to see that thing go down the track like that.
I saw that on Diesel World recently. I was on their site and I saw that truck, and they had a little write-up on it. It was cool. I was like, wow, it went that fast. So I think with diesel performance in the aftermarket, that's what's so awesome about it. I think for all of us is just because the trucks aren't new doesn't mean that there aren't upgrades and innovations and new things coming out for them,
Yep. It's, the 7.3s are not dead. I know they're old dinosaur motors and all, but they're not dead. And I'm going to be running the 590 index. Ralph, my buddy Ralph up at Marty's Diesel, he's going to be running the 590 index with his 7.3 too. So we'll probably be the only Fords in the class up against some common rail Dodges and maybe a couple Duramaxes, but it's going to be fun. So, and it's going to be cool to see a couple 7.3s out there.
Oh yeah,
hurting the competition.
I was going to say the 7.3 guys, they're a loyal bunch, and I'm sure they're going to be watching, paying attention, and cheering for you guys. Yeah,
man. So, looking forward to it. I don't plan to do anything else to my truck for a while after I get it back going. It's just like never ends, man. So, but it's an addiction. So,
I think the bug's bit all of us, and I've like I said earlier, I remember seeing your truck way back when, and it was so cool to see it, and especially what you've done with that truck back then, but then also now, and what you're doing with tuning and being involved in different builds and stuff. It's really been cool to chat with you about the 7.3 platform, kind of pick your brain a little bit, ask some questions, and everything.
Yep, I appreciate you having me on here and everything.
Yeah, we'll have you back on after maybe after race season. Tell us how you did, and
that'd be cool.
Yeah, man. Well, I appreciate your time today.
Yeah, no problem. Have a good one.
Don't forget, diesel fans, make sure and check out PPEI at PPEI.com and BD Diesel at dieselperformance.com. If you're looking for custom tuning, towing upgrades, race parts, anything in between, those guys got it. Until next time, keep the shiny side up.